Hello everybody, welcome to the next video on TCP, and today we are going to look at TCP timer management. Now we know that in TCP, or for that matter in any transport layer protocols, most of the time we use certain timers. So let us see what timers are used in the TCP protocol. Okay, the first one is very commonly known to you, that is your retransmission timeout timer. Okay, so this is when you send the packet and you start the timer, and then you wait for an acknowledgement. If the acknowledgement is not reached within this timeout period, then the the segment has to be retransmitted. So we have the retransmission timer. Now, in addition to this again, there's a typo here, TIMER. Okay, very sorry for this. Then, in addition to these, the retransmission timer, which we have already seen, we have some other timers also, like the persistence timer, the keep alive timer, the time wait timer. So we'll look at each of these. But the most important is our retransmission timeout timer, or the RTO timer. Okay, so this RTO timer is, or rather we call it the RTO itself. The RTO, it is used by TCP to take care of retransmission. So to bring about reliability, TCP uses retransmission. And when to retransmit? For that, it uses this timer. So once a segment is sent, this timer is started. So the moment a host sends a segment, okay, it will start this RTO. Now, if within this timeout period, so this, let's say the timeout period is kept to be some time, timeout is say X seconds. So if within X seconds, the acknowledgement is received, okay, then the timer will stop. Otherwise, if the acknowledgement is not received within this time and the timeout occurs, then okay, the segment will be retransmitted. And again, the timer will be starting again for this newly sent segment. Now, so this is how it works. But then, what should be the ideal value of this X? We said that this timeout value is some X seconds. So what should be the ideal value of this X? How much time what should be the value for this? So it's not so easy to decide what would be the time, okay, because in the transport layer, okay, below the transport layer, you have the network layer, which is very unpredictable. So there may be congestions, there may be less buffer. So because of all these reasons, you may have loss of segments. And the round trip time is not sufficient, just that you send and the data will be received. It is not so simple, okay, because there may be congestions, there may be less buffer at the receiver, and many other things. So you can see this is in this diagram, you can see that we are plotting the round trip time and the probability. So this is a probability density function of the round trip times in the transport layer. And as you can see in the diagram, okay, it ranges from the round trip time can go from a wide range of values. So from here to here. So at this time, the probability is 0. So for when at this thing, this would be the probability that this would be the time. So you can see the height of this curve is less, and its width is also very high. So that means the round trip times can vary a lot, okay, because of the underlying network congestion, the network scenarios. So if these are the round trip times, then how should I set my timer, RTO timer? So suppose I set it to T1. Okay, I set the timer to T1. So this is the time. So this may be too early, because you can see a good number of it of the time of the round trip time is after this point t1. So what it happens if we keep it too soon, timeout, then it will trigger unnecessary retransmission. Okay, because for this, whatever is coming at this side, okay, for all of these, the packets will have to be retransmitted. What happens if we have it here? Then we don't keep it early, we keep it late. So if it is late, then okay, you can see it is covering the entire range. But then what about the performance? So if I have it too late, then the performance degradation will take place, because if the packets are lost, then you have to retransmit. But this retransmission will take a lot of time because you are waiting for t2 seconds or milliseconds. You're waiting very long. So the performance degradation takes place. So what is the solution? So the solution is a dynamic algorithm, okay, that changes the timeout based on constant observation of the network's performance. Okay, constant observation. So we are looking at the network performance. So there is congestion, there is no congestion. This is how much the time at this point of time, at time t1, this is the round trip time. Okay, at time t2, this is the round trip time. Okay, at time t3, this is the round trip time. Okay, we are looking at each of these constantly. We are monitoring the network scenario, and then based on the round trip time that we have evaluated, we change the timeout. So if the timeout is say t1 here, so based on this observation, we change the timeout. So it is a dynamic algorithm that changes the timeout based on constant observation of the network performance. So for this, we have an algorithm called the Jacobson's algorithm. Okay, so what is this algorithm used for? This algorithm is used to find a suitable timeout period. Okay, and it's a dynamic algorithm because what it is doing, it is monitoring, it is looking at the round trip time, and then based on that, it is changing the RTO, the timeout period. Okay, so let's see how it works. So for each connection, first TCP will use a variable called SRTT. SRTT. So for every connection, the TCP will maintain a variable SRTT. SRTT stands for smoothened round trip time. Okay, which what this will do, this variable, it keeps track of the best current estimate of the RTT. So currently SRTT is X. Okay, next moment the scenario may change in the network. There may be congestion. So SRTT will become higher. Round trip time will become higher. Okay. Again, after some time, the congestion may be relieved, and as a result, the SRTT will become shorter. So in this variable, we keep track of which is the best current estimate of the SRTT. So how do we find this? So when a segment is sent, okay, the TCP will start a timer. So just like the RTO. So it starts the timer for retransmission as well as to find out the RTT. Okay, so the timer is not only for the timeout period to trigger retransmission, but also to find out what is the estimate of the RTT. What is the RTT it is recording at this point of time. So if the acknowledge gets back before the timer expires, TCP measures how long the acknowledgement took. Okay, so it has sent the segment, it has got an acknowledgement. So this is the time R. This is the time R. Okay, so based on this computed value of R, it will update this SRTT variable. So how it will update? Using this formula. So SRTT is alpha into SRTT plus 1 minus alpha into R. Okay, so what is this alpha? This alpha is known as a smoothing factor. So you notice the difference between RTT, retransmission time, round trip time, and SRTT. So this is the smoothened smoothened RTT. So for this, that alpha is the smoothing factor that is used. Okay, so this alpha is basically used, or this formula is basically used to see how fast or how slow the SRTT will forget the old values and move to a new value. Okay, so typically alpha is 7/8. Okay, so if you see, if I have a high value of alpha, if alpha is high, okay, then that means I am giving a lot of weight to the old value of SRTT. That is, I am multiplying with a high value of alpha with SRTT, and if alpha is high, then 1 minus alpha will be low. 1 minus alpha will be low. So I'm giving a low weightage to the currently recorded RTT. Okay. So a higher value will make the SRTT give more weightage to the old value of SRTT. So it will forget the previous value slowly. But if I have the opposite, that means alpha is low, and then 1 minus alpha is high. So if alpha is low, then alpha into SRTT means this will become lesser. This will become smaller. Okay, and 1 minus alpha into R will become higher. So this term will give more. This term will have more weightage on the newly calculated SRTT. Okay, so in that case, the value of SRTT will forget the previous values faster as compared to a higher value of alpha. So basically, this is how the value of the variable SRTT is computed. Okay. Now, another variable is used. Okay, because there is also a wide variance. If you recall this, this is the diagram. If you look at this, you can see there is a high variance in this diagram. You can see there is a high variance of the round trip time. It ranges from here to here, from a very low value to a very high value. So to take care of this variance, again another variable is used, that is RTT var, round trip time variation. Okay, and this is updated with this formula. Okay, you can see this is also similar looking formula. So the variance part is handled by this variable. So how it is updated, the value of RTT VAR is updated in this manner. So beta into RTT VAR, that means the previous value of RTT VAR into 1 minus beta into STT minus R, SRTT minus R. Okay, what is the difference between the computed SRTT and the actually observed RTT? Okay, so what is the difference? So same here, the factor, the smoothing factor, beta is being used out here, and typical value of beta is 3/4. Okay, and again you see the same logic is used here, high value of beta and low value of beta. Okay. So now based on these two variables, that is SRTT, smoothened round trip time, and RTT VAR, RTT variance. Okay, so with this we can compute the formula, or we can compute the value of the round trip time, the retransmission timeout, that is RTO, as using this formula. So SRTT, okay, whatever is the value we have computed here, plus 4 into RTT variance. So this is taking into consideration the round trip time as well as the variance that is caused, right? That can be found. And this multiplying a factor of 4 is basically kept for convenience purpose, convenience in the computation. So basically this is it. So this is how you get you can find out the value of the timeout period. So you have RTO is equal to this value. And what is FRTT? FRTT is given by this formula. Okay, and RTTVAR is given by this particular formula. Okay, so I hope you have understood this section. So using this Jacobson's algorithm, now you can compute what could be an ideal time for the retransmission timer. Now let us quickly look at the other less important timers that are present in TCP. So the next one is the persistence timer. So this also we had actually looked into it. That is, if you recall, I have a sender and a receiver. The receiver sends the window update. What is the window that is there? So if it sends and window update is 0, okay. So here the sender will be blocked. The sender is blocked here. The sender cannot send any more data. So it is waiting. Now let's say that at this point of time, a window update is sent by the receiver again. Window is say 3 is being sent, but then this gets lost. So in that case, the sender is waiting for a window update. The receiver is waiting for the sender to send the data. So, but it has already sent the update, but it has not reached the sender. So what happens? There is a deadlock. So to avoid this kind of deadlock, this is used. So what happens here? So here, the persistence timer. So whenever the sender receives a window update, where window update is 0, okay, it will start this persistence timer. Okay, when window update is 0, it will start the persistent timer. Okay, so when so that means the sender will be waiting. It will be blocked, but it will be waiting on this timer. So let's say at this point of time, the timer times out. The timer times out. Now what this sender will do? The sender will now ask for a window update from the receiver. So this is known as a window probe. We discussed about this earlier. Window probe. So the sender, when this persistence timer times out, then the sender will send the window probe. And again, it will start a timer. Okay. And if it receives this window is still 0, okay, update, it receives an update from the receiver that the window is still 0, so it will start this timer again, persistence timer again, till it gets. So here, okay, so window is 0, so it is waiting. So at this point, let's say it times out, so it will send a window probe. Okay, and when it gets a window size which is say 3 or any non-zero value, then the timer will be stopped. Okay, so that is the persistent time. Okay, next we have another timer called the keep alive timer. So this keep alive timer is used when connections are idle for a long time. Okay, so let's say you are talking on the phone with your friend, and then for a long time neither you have spoken anything or nor your friend has spoken anything. Okay, then you will ask, are you there? Are you awake or are you sleeping? So this timer is like this. So when there is you have a connection between the sender and the receiver, okay, for a particular some amount of time there has been no activity, so no data is sent, no data is received. Okay, so in that case, if this timer goes off, then either party can check whether the other party is alive or not. Okay. If so, it will send, if this timer times out, then it will send us some query to the other party, and if the other party responds, then okay, it is alive. Otherwise, the connection is terminated. Okay. So this is the keep alive timer. So this also has use. It's not it's not used in all versions of TCP. Certain versions use this. And finally, we have this time wait timer. So this is basically used during the connection termination. And we had seen this time wait when we discussed about the connection termination, or the finite state automata for connection establishment. So here, if you recall this diagram, you can see here, this is time wait. This is in the time wait state. Okay. So from here to go to the close state, it has to wait for a particular amount of time. So it has to wait for a timeout. Okay. So this timeout is maintained by this time wait timer. So it is used during connection termination, and it runs for twice the maximum packet lifetime. Okay. So this is to make sure that, okay, you are going to terminate the connection. So all packets created by this connection must have died off. Okay. So there should not be any packets moving around in the network for this particular connection. That's why it waits for 2 maximum packet lifetime before the connection is closed. So this is the timeout for it. This is the timeout period which is used for this by this timer. So this was the time wait timer. So in today's video, we have talked about the various timers that are used in TCP. So you had the round trip, the retransmission timeout. We have the persistence timer. We had the keep alive timer, and we have the time wait timer. So these are 4 commonly used timers in TCP. So that is all for this video. We will discuss more about TCP, that is congestion control, in the next video. Thank you.